They called her a Jezebel. She called herself a soulmate. What happens when a woman, condemned, judged, branded with that name, believes her connection to a married pastor is divinely ordained? What happens when rejection cuts so deep that love turns deadly? Tonight, we're diving into the chilling story of Pastor Ethan Walker, his loyal wife Megan, and the woman who refused to let go, Ava Brooks. This is a case where faith, obsession, and betrayal collide, and it ends with a brutal act that shocked an entire city. Dallas, Texas, a city with many mega ministries, and faith is lived out loud. At the heart of it all stood Radiant Life Church, a spiritual powerhouse attracting thousands each week. Its leader, Pastor Ethan Walker, charismatic, visionary, revered by his flock. Ethan wasn't just a pastor, he was a brand. His sermons streamed online, drawing views far beyond Dallas. People lined up outside, waiting for prayer, believing his touch carried the power to heal. He preached prosperity, breakthrough, and hope. His voice could move a crowd to tears, and his presence could silence a room. And beside him, always steady, was his wife Megan. She didn't command attention the way Ethan did, but those who knew her called her warm, wise, and grounded. If Ethan was the fire, Megan was the anchor. From the outside, Radiant Life seemed unstoppable. But behind the Sunday smiles and polished stage lights, a storm was brewing. And at the center of it was a woman who believed she had been chosen, Ava Brooks. Ava Brooks was unforgettable. She had presence, striking looks, sharp wit, and a confidence that drew eyes wherever she went. She wasn't just another church member. She was front and center. Always. She volunteered for ministries, funded projects, and gave generously. She wasn't afraid to speak up in Bible study or raise her hands during worship. But her devotion wasn't just to God. It was to one man, Pastor Ethan Walker. In sermons, Ethan seemed to single her out. He prayed over her passionately, spoke prophetic words into her life, and gave her time in private counseling sessions. To outsiders, maybe it was pastoral care. To Ava, it was something else. Ava believed, truly, deeply, that she and Ethan shared a divine bond, a soulmate connection ordained by God himself. And when other women whispered, calling her Jezebel, she shrugged it off. They didn't understand. She wasn't seducing Ethan. She was fulfilling destiny. But destiny, as she imagined it, was about to collide with reality. At first, Ethan treated Ava's intensity as enthusiasm. But over time, her devotion turned invasive. She lingered after services. She appeared at his office unannounced, claiming visions or urgent prophetic dreams. What began as admiration grew into fixation. Ethan tried to create distance. He reminded Ava of his marriage. He limited counseling sessions. He insisted on public meetings instead of private ones. But to Ava, distance wasn't rejection. It was a test, a trial of her faith. And the more he pulled away, the more determined she became. Meanwhile, whispers spread through the congregation. Rumors of Ava's closeness to the pastor. Side glances at Megan during services. Quiet conversations about whether Ethan had crossed a line. And Megan noticed too. She saw the evasive glances, the late-night texts, the weariness in her husband's eyes whenever Ava's name came up. Ethan assured her nothing was happening. But for Megan, doubt had already settled in. The perfect pastoral image was beginning to crack. 4 months, Ava convinced herself Ethan's distance was temporary. A test. Proof that their love was under attack from jealous voices. But one Sunday afternoon, her illusions shattered. After service, Ava lingered in the hallway near Ethan's office. Heart pounding, palms sweating, she pressed close to the door and peered through the crack. Inside, Ethan wasn't alone. Megan stood in his arms, her head against his chest. Ethan kissed her forehead gently. A small moment of intimacy, but to Ava it was devastation. In that single instant, her carefully built fantasy collapsed. The man she believed was her God-ordained soulmate had chosen his wife. This wasn't a test. It wasn't a spiritual battle. It was rejection, final and undeniable. And in Ava's heart, something snapped. That evening, when the church staff had gone home, Ava returned. She stormed into Ethan's office, eyes red with fury. "Ava, so this is how you repay me? My prayers, my devotion, my love." Ethan froze, His usual calm charisma faltered. He tried to soothe her, denied any romantic connection, told her she had misunderstood, but then he said the words that broke her completely. "Ava, you're deceived. This isn't love, it's a spirit. You need deliverance." To Ava, it wasn't just rejection. It was damnation. Her gaze dropped to the desk. A ceremonial letter opener, heavy, gold-plated, a gift from a church member, caught the light. In one explosive burst of rage, Ava grabbed it. She lunged. Pastor Ethan Walker staggered back, collapsed. The man she once called her soulmate lay motionless at her feet. Hours later, Ava sat under blinding lights in a police interrogation room. Detective Ramirez leaned forward. "Calm, steady. Ava, we know Ethan Walker is dead. Tell us what happened." Her voice trembled. Tears streaked her face. "He told me I was chosen, that we were soulmates. I gave him everything. And then he called me demonic, like I was nothing." She insisted she hadn't planned to kill him, claimed it was the heat of the moment, a reaction to unbearable pain. But to the detectives, one fact mattered most. Pastor Ethan Walker was dead. The trial of Ava Brooks gripped Dallas. The defense portrayed her as a victim, a lonely, devout woman groomed by a powerful pastor. They argued that Ethan's attention, his spiritual authority, and his eventual rejection drove her into a mental and emotional collapse. The prosecution painted a different picture. Ava is a jealous, obsessed woman who couldn't handle rejection. They pointed to her persistence, her obsession, and the cold fact of Ethan's death. The courtroom overflowed with spectators. Media crews swarmed the courthouse steps. Supporters of Ethan demanded justice. Others whispered sympathy for Ava, calling her broken, not evil. Even within the church, lines were drawn. Some mourned their pastor. Others admitted quietly that Ethan had blurred boundaries with Ava in ways no leader should. The jury faced an impossible choice: weigh her suffering against the brutality of her crime. In the end, 3 lives were destroyed. Megan lost her husband. Radiant Life lost its leader. And Ava Brooks lost herself. Even now, questions linger. Was Ava a victim of manipulation, or a woman consumed by obsession? Did Pastor Ethan cross lines that fueled her delusion? Or was this tragedy the inevitable result of a love story that never really existed? They called her a Jezebel. She called herself a soulmate. And in the end, that conviction cost a man his life. What do you think? Was Ava Brooks a victim, or a murderer blinded by obsession? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories where passion turns deadly, subscribe to Heartstrings and Handcuffs and hit the bell so you never miss a case.